good morning, and for some, good afternoon. Today, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us on day 4 of CIDCI 2021 Fall Forum. My name is Stuart Eckblad. I am chair of CIDCI. So briefly, who is CIDCI? First, we're the Center for Innovation in the Design and Construction Industry. Our mission is to be a catalyst to improve the built environment and inspire innovation. We facilitate the exchange of ideas, knowledge, and insights to address challenges and opportunities in our industry. I think part of our theme is curiosity, and we'd welcome you to join us in that curiosity. About 18 months ago, we shifted to a Zoom presentations for these forums in light of COVID, but also it has actually given us an opportunity to widen our community, to make us more accessible and to get our thinking, and not just our thinking, but really the thinking of others out and about, and make it easier to learn more about what other people are doing. We record our presentations and put them on the website and on YouTube. We invite you to please to see them, to share them, put them into with your colleagues, and please remember, and particularly your clients as well, which is a great way to spread innovation. Also, it's free. So we encourage you to participate. I would like to introduce you to our board of industry leaders. Dean Reed, Samiha Ergen, Howard Ashcraft, Zig Rubel, Rebecca Snelling, Larry Hillman, Ian McLaren, Troy Thompson, Patricia Tillman, Tia Lee, KP Redding. We are very fortunate to have a board that represents a wide range of the industry. And when I say the industry, it's not just the designing and construction, but it's the academics, it's products. So we are very fortunate at this time to have such a broad reach. And we encourage you to contact them individually and talk to them about your ideas, your thinking. We also would like to extend an enormous gratitude to Ian McLaren, who has been on the board for quite a long time and has one of the founders of CIDCI. And he's leaving the board at the end of this year. So Ian, thank you personally, and from the board, thank you for your leadership and your participation and all the contributions you've made for CIDCI. So currently, CIDCI offers a newsletter and free online webinars for our community. Again, we really would like you to participate, but we'd love to hear from you about things that you've heard about, things you know about, ideas that you have. It really will help us to help you, as well as help the industry to learn more about new ideas, new thinking. So how can CIDCI best accelerate innovation for you and your company in this next year? These are particular issues we are very interested in hearing about, so please, again, contact us, let us know what you're thinking, let us know what we can do better. Again, as a community, we are a nonprofit, so we can't thank our sponsors enough, especially this year's forum is given or presented to us by Bosch, and we appreciate their support in this event. And hopefully you've had a chance, this is our 4th day, hopefully you've had a chance in our 3 days prior to explore and to see what has been presented so far. And again, thank you, Bosch, for making this possible. So we do live in a time of innovation, and particularly in the profit world or the for-profit world. But also we really want to recognize a lot is happening in the nonprofit sector. And I think this becomes really important because it represents the breadth of the industry. So I'd like to take a couple minutes today sharing a video of a remarkable nonprofit organization who is changing the world. This short video shows how change is happening, often in the grassroots level. Please enjoy this.
Closest thing you're gonna get to magic and a fairy tale, because it really shows you that the world isn't so big and scary and crazy, and that anything you want to do is possible.
I could literally be anything with coding. I could be a scientist, doctor, an astronaut.
We like to call our girls, future tech bosses. It is problematic that women in the tech industry are less than 3%, especially in technical roles. But I think we're part of the solution in terms of where the industry needs to go and grow. For the girls that are coming into our program, it's vitally important that they have this exposure early on.
I've always had trouble of what I want to be when I grow up, but this really helped me, and I believe I want to be a coder now. All the programs, even Zoom right now, someone coded it, and it's complex, but at the same time easy. At school, I've been having problems, I've just been having problems, and at Black Girls Code, they kind of see my real potential, unlike some of my teachers.
It's transformational, if you will, because it really taps into a change of mindset and what is possible for me and my future as a Black woman.
My teachers, they don't believe that I have the potential that I actually do have, and seeing other girls that look like me and have the same interest as me doing the things that I want to do, it proves them wrong.
Hi, it's All About Sumaya. I've been a Black Girls Code Tech Diva for 6 years.
We really created, this label for them as future tech bosses to really also ingrain in them and for the world that this is what the future looks like.
It's so cool and kind of exciting too, because it's for all I know, I'm sitting in the room learning and networking with the next Kamala Harris or Kimberly Bryant or Katherine Johnson. So it's exciting to think about, and we're all in it together.
Well, it's delightful. It's fabulous. And that one tagline, this is what the future looks like. This is really special. So we're really happy to have a chance to explore that and see that. But with that, I'd like to turn to the presentation now and the forum over to KP Redding.
Thanks, Stuart, for that. Yeah, great. Black Girls Code's a great organization. Lots of local chapters. Definitely get involved, get engaged. There's no such thing as too much help these days. So I'm KP Reddy. I'm the general partner for Shadow Ventures. As background, we're a venture firm that focuses on early stage investing in the built environment. I'm a second generation civil engineer, so I'm very passionate about the world that we work in, and really believe we're the last industry that's really shaping the planet. And part of doing that well is through innovation. And so when we started the firm, really focused on this idea of how do we invest in entrepreneurs in this space. And what you'll find today is most of these entrepreneurs, they weren't a couple of college kids in a dorm room coming up with an idea. Most of them have worked in industry. Not a lot of 22-year-olds in our midst, but we find that a lot of the entrepreneurs come from industry, understand the problems in a very deep way, yet generally lack the coaching and capital to really build scalable tech startups. That's kind of been our mission. So really excited today. I think you will see some very interesting startups that are doing very interesting things, very credible things. You will see no pizza delivery apps, no dating apps. You will see things that are relevant and applicable to your work today, tomorrow, and the next day. So I think that's super important. So with that, glad everybody's here. I know Zoom is not ideal. We'd all rather be in person. But thanks for coming. Happy to be with you guys today. Our format today is fairly structured. We're going to hear 4 presentations, take a few questions from each session, and then we'll open up the chat box at the end of the presentation. So feel free to drop questions in the chat box as the program moves along. I will say, as an entrepreneur, our energy feeds off of questions. We want people to ask lots of questions. We don't believe that we've given you the entire answer. We're always looking for questions. So definitely, it's a great encouragement to the entrepreneurs on this call to ask questions. A little bit of background on the AEC industry and the landscape. I think one of the biggest things we're seeing is the advent of these smaller tech startups. So I think in the industry, we get to what we call the incumbent software companies. That's the Autodesk, the Bentley, the Procores of the world. We believe have gotten pretty complacent in the world of innovation. And it's nothing negative. It is just the factor of sizing. And what we're seeing is a lot more nimble startups showing up, driving real innovation, driving net new product, not just marketing their next version. I would say they are also building much more customer intimate relationships to really understand the needs and the problems of the customer that, quite honestly, I think we've all been kind of lost in the fold of some of the large tech incumbents. So the big trend we're seeing has been, there's an old saying, you never got fired for hiring IBM. And that has been the case in our industry with the risk aversion. I would rather work with a product I know from a company I know, even though it's horrible, but I will work with it because they are a known quantity. What we have seen is a generation of innovators in our industry that are much more interested in working with the startup. They are a lot less risk averse, and they're willing to try and experiment. And the good news is these up and comers, these innovators in our industry are actually getting vocal and getting a seat at the table, so to speak, with the C-suite, which is absolutely fantastic. It's been a long time coming. So I think one of the biggest challenges we continue to see is, industry is very fragmented. I love a lot of what, Stuart has done with this organization around this idea of including the owners. I think the owners are still like this unwilling participant in innovation. We've got to get them more engaged. And I think, our biggest challenge is getting everybody on the same page and working together and willing to take risks, because these are all calculated risks and they are huge opportunities that we require in order to continue to move this industry forward, and continue to do the great work that a lot of the firms and people on this call do. So today we're going to hear from 4 startups. First startup I'm going to introduce is Tommy with Green Badger. I've known Tommy for lots of years. Have watched him start kind of solo and grow, and has done just an amazing job. I would say he's probably one of the first startups I met in this space that I thought was doing some pretty interesting things. And so Green Badger, they automate the lead in green construction compliance by eliminating spreadsheets, instantly verifying thousands of green construction products, creating in-field inspection reports, and expert ready for third-party review. What I love about Green Badger is they're actually, it's not just about the lead logo, it's about the lead vision, and they help kind of people actualize that vision. So Tommy, I'll let you go.
All right. I'm excited to introduce my new pizza delivery dating app, Tindominoes. But we'll cover that later. Thanks, KP. I am Tommy Linstroth. I'm the founder of Green Badger, and we're a SaaS platform built to streamline and really automate green construction compliance. I'm sure everyone on here knows why that's important, but we'll get to that in a minute. Today is not just showcasing what we do as startups, but really the journey on our own journey down that innovation highway, and how did we get here and where we're going in the future. As KP said, we're not 22 coming out of school. A lot of this is things that we've done for specific reasons based on our experience navigating the industry. And probably just like everybody here, my road to where I'm sitting here today has been winding. And in fact, looking back, and I have this conversation a lot, how did my path towards sustainability and innovation begin? And, reflecting on it, it wasn't when I was 22, it was actually, I go back to when I was about 12, a few decades back. And I wanted some extra cash outside of my allowance, but, being 12 back then, I couldn't start an app and take coding classes. I didn't have too many options. After a very short-lived, miserable experience refereeing soccer, I quickly determined I was much more interested in playing the game than in reffing. But That, alas, did not solve my problem of wanting or needing some extra spending cash. So decided, with all the urban sprawl going on in the neighborhood where I grew up in Wisconsin, that I was going to go through construction dumpsters and dumpster dive and pull out soda cans from the site and bring those back and recycle those for some extra cash. It was pretty effective. I remember coming home with those black, hefty cinch sack trash bags full of cans. My dad would drive me to the metal recycler. They'd weigh it right there in front of you, and then they'd shell out some cash, and I'd come home with a couple bucks in my pocket. Now, in hindsight, of course, I realized that that was really my first true step towards sustainability. I did it for economic reasons, but in fact, it had environmental and even, probably some social results. And really, that's been the same focus that I put into our efforts today. And it's the focus I've been fortunate to be able to have throughout my career, which is working to find solutions that had a positive return on the triple bottom line of social, economic, and environmental results. My journey through sustainability took me through a number of endeavors, small and large. I started actually in the real estate development side of things. So I was on the owner side. I was the director of sustainability for a Southeast regional developer called Malaver Inc. Back in the early 2000s. So this is back when people would ask, what did we do wrong? Why were we penalized? Why were they making us build green? We must have broken some terrible laws, and this was our penances that we had to do green building. So certainly in the Southeast at the time was not leading the charge in green innovation, but it did give me a great firsthand personal experience in sustainable development, and importantly from the owner side, right? Somebody wasn't paying me to do something green. We were putting our own cash at stake because not just because it was the right thing to do, which it was, and that's one of the reasons we were doing it, but because there were economic benefits to doing so. Building green gave the obvious returns of lower utility bills, but for our commercial properties, it really helped differentiate them and secure tenants. Again, this was 15, 20 years ago, before LEED was a commonplace, before people were just doing this, before it was written in code that you have to. So it was really starting to push the envelope and educate people of why we were doing it and then how it needed to be done. Through that time, I was fortunate to be involved with the first LEED certified shopping center in the US, the first LEED McDonald's, and some of the first LEED affordable housing, actually the first LEED affordable housing in Georgia, which we always use that as our demonstration case. If you can do it for affordable housing, you can build green for any type of project. And in fact, the success of that project has now nearly 100% of affordable housing in Georgia is either LEED or Earthcraft certified. So that project we're really proud of because it really helped move that bar forward for a community who needs it the most. After that, I took that and transitioned into the world of consulting with Trident Sustainability Group, where I continued to focus on green design and construction. We work with lots and lots of projects up and down the East Coast, but also really began to work with organizational sustainability. So this is from things like small nonprofits all the way up to multi-billion-dollar organizations such as Gulfstream Aerospace to, again, incorporate sustainability strategies. Again, that didn't just sound good, right? This wasn't just something that was check the box and it's a soundbite, but really provided sound financial returns and benefits to the employees and the communities they lived and work in. The recurring theme here that I constantly ran up against is you don't get far with sustainability by preaching. You don't stand up there and just say, do it because it's the right thing to do. You do it by showing how it benefits the organization in any number of ways. It's better for the people, there's positive financial returns, it differentiates your product, and oh yeah, of course, at the end, yes, it's the right thing to do. But people listen a lot more to the dollar signs than they do to getting preached at. A common theme, though, that came through all of this is that whether it was measuring greenhouse gas emissions or earning LEED certification, the theme through it all was that it was a labor-intensive manual process is embedded somewhere in there. If there is a sustainability metric, there is some gosh darn Excel spreadsheet involved with it somehow. I can guarantee it. And those processes became the bane of my existence. Not just for my own sanity, but because they were so labor intensive and fraught with error. Again, you look at these spreadsheets, they're bound to be dozens of errors, but that makes it super expensive to do it and to do it well. And when you need mass adoption of a concept such as sustainability, if you make it hard and you make it expensive, it's going to make it unpopular. And thus Green Badger was born, really seeking to streamline and automate green construction compliance. As you all know now, green construction is a huge chunk of the marketplace. It's between 30 to 40% of the total construction pie. So this is a challenge that a lot of people face. And if you're building anywhere in California, you face it for any single project you do. So much like TurboTax took that box of receipts and your hand filled out 1040 and automated it, Green Badger is doing the same for LEED and green building compliance. As KP mentioned earlier, our web and mobile platforms eliminate spreadsheets, including, if you're in the LEED world, all of those buggy macro embedded LEED calculators and the need to use multiple spreadsheets on every project, while also providing centralized data aggregation. You get real-time reporting, 24/7 transparency, so you always have accountability and you always know where your project stands. I was literally on a call this morning and the team is, the project is built and they're wondering, well, how are we? Where are we doing? How are we tracking? That's not a very smart way to go through this construction process of not knowing where you are until a building is already built. We also offer instant product verification for thousands and thousands and thousands of products, from EPDs to HPDs to VOCs and any other green acronym that's product related out there. Manual checklists and photos are replaced with our mobile app with in-field reporting, and then we package everything up and export it, format it exactly how it needs to go to the US Green Building Council for certification. Our software saves general contracting teams and consultants hundreds and hundreds of hours per project per year, time that we feel is better invested getting your building built on time and on budget, not chasing paperwork, and investing those dollars that might be going to consultants into solar panels that are actually making your building greener. But all of this over the last couple of years has led to the next step in my innovation journey, in Green Badger's innovation journey. And that's solving the emerging problem of construction, environmental, social, and governance, or ESG. Like a lot in the industry, we've spent the last few years focusing on what the building is made of. Where are the products coming from? Are they healthy? What's going on inside the building? The industry's been that way too. Energy Star has been around for forever, but that's looking at what happens once your building's occupied, when there's people in it. What are your utility bills? What's it look like? I'm here today because that's starting to change. Now it's not just what carbon do the building occupants produce from sitting in those buildings, but what's the embodied carbon of the materials themselves? Environmental product declarations, the new EC3 calculator, advanced lifecycle analysis software, they are beginning to crack that materials challenge. That is nothing that I'm dipping my toe into, but it still leaves a gap. It leaves a gap between the product or the material creation and the end building's carbon and energy impacts. And that gap consists of months or years of construction activities that are required to transform those materials into the buildings we work and live in today. And that's what brings us to the next step. We just launched our new portal to bridge that gap, to specifically track, benchmark, and then help reduce job site carbon, waste, water, and the energy impact of the actual construction process itself. While our expanded platform already includes things like waste, indoor air quality management, erosion control, and of course your LEED compliance. We're tackling job site wellness opportunities as well, to tie into the functionality for general contractors that are lining up with the contractor's commitment, as well as being able to report this back to owners who are starting to capture construction activities as part of their own environmental footprint. If you're building projects for Amazon and Google and Microsoft, they are saying, hey, these activities are part of my carbon footprint. They would not occur if I wasn't building this building. You need to track and report this. And so it's coming as the owners are beginning to demand it. As with our current platform, the portal is managed. You can manage one project or 100, all with super easy to use dashboards, user interfaces, mobile apps, third-party integrations with other construction workflows. And an individual project team member can just really focus on the metrics and the data responsible just to them. And then at the bigger level, you can roll it up on the organizations. They're taking a more holistic approach with corporate dashboards that allow for entire organizations to have data aggregation and comparison. You can benchmark all of your projects. You can set individual reduction goals for any of those metrics, and plug and play widgets allow users to determine the dashboards that are relevant to them. Companies can now set internal goals for carbon, energy, any of those metrics, and benchmark against themselves or against industry standards. As we are having hundreds of projects you're able to compare yourself to, and soon thousands. Again, some dipping their toes in, they may just want to track waste, and that's great. That's a great first step. While others may get into, operational carbon, or even the carbon generated by product transport or subcontractor commutes to the job site. Either way, at the end, our platform gives actionable data to see how your ESG activities break down for the entire organization. We really see this as a transformative new platform that's empowering the entire construction community to improve our performance. Again, we've got a broad swath of environmental, social, and governance metrics you're able to track, in addition to those third-party building certifications you're seeing. Now, are these necessarily required today? No, I think we're ahead of the curve, but when you start looking, Bloomberg estimates that ESG assets are going to be over $50 trillion by 2025. And while obviously construction is just a component of that, it certainly is a great indicator of how important ESG is becoming and the need to have platforms in place to be able to track and report it to stay competitive in this environment. And you already see things like New York City is requiring existing buildings to report carbon, and they're getting graded on scores. As I mentioned, owners are asking general contractors for their on-site information already. And again, I really just feel that's the tip of the iceberg, and that's why we're pushing this on our journey. And so Green Badger is really here to provide that comprehensive platform for ESG at the job site and at the corporate level. In the end, again, we ultimately want to be the most comprehensive solution for construction ESG metrics and green building certifications, from LEED to WELL to CalGreen and everything in between, that impact the construction community across the country and around the world. So I appreciate the opportunity to come here and share my story, where I started in my personal journey, pulling cans out of construction dumpsters to now trying to help every contractor in the world manage their waste. So hopefully we don't find cans in the landfill dumpsters anymore.
Kami, where are you seeing the most traction? Because it seems like you're like this hub of the hub and spoke of this, between the owners and between the designers and between the contractors. Who have you seen kind of being your early customers?
Our early customers are definitely the general contractors. So we have projects with 22 out of the 25 ENR green contractors. We're getting close to 1,000 projects across the US and Canada. We've seen our first projects now in the Caribbean and in Europe, but it's definitely, the contractor is 90% of our user base. We are solving a very acute problem for them. The owner has said, thou shalt do this, either track these metrics or get this certification. And at that point, it's on the contractor to make that deliverable. And so our workflow is really empowering them to do so without having to be an expert in sustainability or hire it. So they can really do it as part of their just day-to-day workflow. We are seeing expanded interest from the design community. So we do have a number of architects now on board. We do have a number of consulting firms that, if you're dealing with LEED and you've got a dozen projects, that's now 60 spreadsheets. Well, if you can have those all in one dashboard, it really starts saving them a lot of time and effort as well.
Got it. Very cool. We do have one question from Peter Layden. How much demand is driven by outside pressure by government or governments or by the market pressure? So how much of this is driven by regulatory versus people just being good citizens?
There's definitely a lot of regulation, right? Like if you're in California, you have to track materials, indoor air quality by code. Any single family home through commercial is driven in California. Any federally funded project needs to achieve LEED certification. You've got probably 2/3 of states that require it, and thousands of municipalities and institutions of higher education. So you do have a huge public sector push, but 90% of Fortune 100 companies require LEED certification on all of their facilities. So the private side, the owner side, is pulling it as well, and they're also the ones that are now driving the ESG side of things, because as I mentioned, those are the ones that are starting to say, well, all of this activity really is our responsibility. And as we report our CSR reports back to our shareholders, we need to account for the waste that's generated from our construction, the carbon that's generated from our construction. So I'd say, there's definitely a regulatory element involved, but you do have a large chunk of private sector owner demand that's stating that this is our ethos, this is how we operate, and this needs to be done on our job sites.
Very cool. All right, thanks, Tommy. That was great. Good to see
All
you.
right, thank you.
All right, so next up, good to hear from Reg Parker at Optimal Tech. Optimal Tech is lowering the cost of electricity for commercial buildings using advanced analytics, IoT devices, and high efficiency energy tech through our curated marketplace.
So I want to share about my journey and how we got to looking at ending energy waste, and that's how we would like to change the world. Well, it started back when I was in high school, and I took this picture to the left, the big picture, and I brightened it up so that you could see it a lot better. But when this picture to the left came out, it was my high school picture, and the only thing you really could see was the whites of my eyes. There was very little color differentiation. And I was not going to have a legacy of that picture for me for high school. So I went to my Uncle Sam, and I had him to take the picture that's just below that looks glowing and nice and pretty. And I was able to use that picture for my high school yearbook. And when he was taking the picture, it had the same structure as did everything else. And I said, Uncle Sam, this is just as bright as the high school picture. How did you make me look so good? I know I look good, but how did you make me look so good? And why wasn't it hot? He said, well, I actually just reflected the infrared. He said, I reflected the heat. I use what we call a hot mirror, and it sends off the infrared and lets the visible come through. And I was able to bring out the nice yellow undertones within your skin. And that's the reason you look a lot better. And of course, I was a lot happier as a consequence. And this became interesting to me. And I had a fundamental interest in light from high school. So my hard journey into where I am today, I continued to study light in undergrad at MIT and looked at the quantum physical properties of it while I was at Georgia Tech and how it dealt with materials from a PhD. Continued the materials journey when I was at Dow Chemical. Then I said I had some inventions. I need to understand just how to do this from a business point of view. So I did work at the Boston Consulting Group. And now I said, okay, I'm ready. So I went into university to develop some of the technology as a professor. So I developed technology over a period of time. We hit the 2008 time frame and the market just went to bust, and developing new technologies was not necessarily in the pipeline. So I pivoted and started developing solar farms. And this was the first African-American utility scale solar farm in the country. This picture was taken about 7 years ago when my kids were small and we were walking it very happy. But the two things I realized at that point was, one, this takes up a lot of space. Is there a way that we can actually do the same number of megawatts in a smaller piece of land? Two, they were not as efficient as they needed to be. 1 megawatt didn't generate enough kilowatt hours, in my thought. And three, this took about a month and a half to deliver, and how can we deliver this faster? The second thing I realized was after people used solar or energy efficiency, their bills still went up after 4, 5, 6 years. So on one hand, with solar, people were not using better energy. And then on the other hand, people were not using energy better. So I came up with 2 technologies, one that would help use better energy, help us to use better energy, and a second to help us to use their energy better. So we developed Rep 1, that's the one you saw me walking down the lane. We did another in Los Gatos, another in Deerfield, Massachusetts, and over 20 rooftops in DC. And here's the history of all the projects that I've done in the past with solar, and as well as a large energy project in Accra, Ghana. And with that, I knew that I was on to something with helping to understand better energy use and using better energy. So I coined the phrase and gave myself a name of Dr. Green Power. And so Dr. Green Power says that the solution to lowering the cost of energy is one, first you have to use energy better or in more energy efficient technologies, and that'll bring it down, and then use better energy. And that really works on price. And we've been able to see, as a consequence of this philosophy, upwards of 60% of electricity cut from our clients. So the first technology, Better Energy, is a new solar device that uses 33% less land, produces 50% more electricity, and installs 21 times faster than others. The structure of this is to use contract manufacturing as well as distributors. Effectively, what we do is we concentrate light. We are able to then columnate it, and we convert on one chip 53% by splitting light, something I learned from my Uncle Sam, and then sending the infrared to another chip, which converts at just over 20%. As a consequence, we get about 42–43% efficiency. And this has been third-party proven by NREL. So we started testing at North Carolina Solar Center, third-party validation, and now we have a commercial design that we're pushing out, and we've gotten favor within the North African and West African markets with the technology, and we're also looking at projects in Texas and California. So it's a de-risk model which requires innovation, marketing, and some selling on our parts, but we've contracted out the manufacturing as well as installer network to allow it to grow as fast as possible. On the other hand, there was the using the energy better. And with that, we said the best place to do this is to put an IoT device, a gateway device, at your breaker box. And from that breaker box, we would be able to send that information up to the cloud and do advanced analytics, including ML, AI, time series analysis, and the like, and send to the customer just how you were doing and some recommendations. Sometimes the recommendations include solar. Whether or not that was our technology or another technology, that will be one of the recommendations. Energy efficiency, utility tech, smart appliances, as well as storage. We look at each individual using our ML and AI and figure out what is necessary to optimize their energy spend. So we took a model of just how energy is done from industry, where you have industry 1.0 to 4.0, where you go from mechanization to automation. And we wanted to be able to deliver to our client energy management autonomously. Our folks who are in hotels don't want to worry about how to do the energy management. Our folks who are EV microgrids didn't want to worry about that as well. They wanted it to be done autonomously. And so we constructed a scenario where we replaced industry with a wide variety of manufacturing with a wide variety of other industries, but are able to bring in the same type of technology, sensors, the IoT devices to them to give them the best of all worlds. And so we put a non-invasive high-resolution sensor device at your site. We have a multi-point communication hub that's able to send it up, do the analytics, and you now have recommendations like, hey, change your air filter, or we need to service your air conditioning or your heat pump. So this is how it looks. We take off your junction, the cover of your junction box, put sensors in, the IoT device, and we're able to see the analytics directly and give you that information. We call this technology carry, controlling your assets through reliable intelligence. And in doing so, as an energy management as a service device, all you have to do is push buttons to say, yes, we authorize this activity. Think of it as Uber for energy management, Uber for energy maintenance. And so you're able to proactively see where your energy spend is going. Now, this works really well for small and medium-sized building owners, as well as, eventually homeowners, but it doesn't. Usually the large buildings, they have an energy manager. So this becomes a tool for energy managers to be able to help you manage your energy costs better. So you say, how do you compare to others? Well, with Honeywell, they market these technologies to energy managers. The difference is that we use 1 unit at the breaker box, whereas they would use around 20. We provide a marketplace, whereas they allow the energy manager to go out into the market and solve the problems that way. Tesla, as another brand, they provide you solar and storage. We provide you whatever it's necessary. Nest is an HVAC device to help you to moderate your thermal needs, whether or not it's to cool off or heat up. We try to provide small to medium-sized businesses a complete solution according to their needs. And it's based on a basic ESCO energy savings contract, where we look at your energy bills, figure out how we can save them. That's the green portion. And over a duration of a contract, we have third parties to help you finance the solution that we've come up with. And we are continuously providing you the O&M through our controlling assets through reliable intelligence to keep your energy costs low. So here's one of the organizations that is currently looking at one of our solutions. Their manufacturing facility in Alabama, just to keep them safe, I took off their names, but it's a 3 million square foot space. We've been able to estimate that they use $2.10 per square foot per year in electricity costs. With our solution that we've prescribed for them, they would save $2.5 million in energy costs a year, adding $21 million to their enterprise value. So not only does it make sense to do this, it also can make dollars, and it can help save the planet. Here's my wonderful team that supports me. Tim and I were critical in developing the first African-American utility scale solar farm. Sherelle has a long experience as a facility and energy manager in Fortune 500s. Billy has helped to manage the installation of over 12,500 wireless towers in Indonesia over 10 years, carrying his firm from $30 million when they acquired it to $3.5 billion when they sold it. Derek has been a customer success and product manager for various utility companies, AT&T, Verizon, and the like. Dr. Jack and Dr. Bramer are both consultants with me who have a long history in AI/ML. And Casimir just graduated from MIT, and he's a project engineer and is helping design some of the next generation technologies. Not only are we here today because of my team, we are backed by some of the best people that we know in the industry, whether or not it's investors, ecosystems, or the award platforms to get to where we are on both our hardware and our software. So we're ecstatic about bringing these solutions to others. And it started with, I didn't like that high school picture. And we needed to do something differently. So I end my talk with, I'm Reginald Parker, founder and CEO of Optimal Technology Corporation. And we tell everybody, get optimal tech.
All right, thanks, Reg. Do we have any questions? I think I saw one. Having worked in Africa, do you see any difference in how consumers use/think about energy versus the US?
Yes, I think about 99% of the US is electrified, whereas there are 600 million people in Africa who have no electricity at all. And so depending on the country is the percent electrified. Northern Africa is 95% electrified, whereas West Africa is only 60%. East Africa, 40, Central Africa, around 30. So the governments, which usually control the power, are desperate for low cost, reliable energy. They don't care if it's clean. They care about affordability and reliability. They do want clean energy if you can give them the two. You'll look at Nigeria, which is the 4th largest oil producer in the world, and they have more generators than they have houses, and it's producing a tremendous amount of greenhouse gases. So they think about, the governments think about clean energy or energy much differently and are more willing to buy at volumes. So they like the idea of the low cost solar technology that we have, but they like the idea of being able to have a microgrid that is able to help communities using our smart technology of Carry to balance out the need and the generation and demand for energy as well.
All right, great. Thanks, Reg. Next up, we've got Amanda Levin from Local Logic. Local Logic is actually based in Canada with a large presence in the US. Local Logic is a location intelligence platform that digitizes the built world for consumers, investors, developers, and governments in the US and Canada.
Hi, so I'm Amanda. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Local Logic, and I believe that data is the key to building cities better. At Local Logic, we're a team of urban planners, engineers, data scientists, and real estate nerds, basically. And I think at different points of all of our careers, we realized that while there's so much data out there that's supposed to help us inform decision-making, it is very hard to make sense of it or even understand what's valuable. I remember when I was studying urban planning, it was very clear that we had an understanding now in the industry of certain types of information on cities and projects and locations. We understood a lot about physical assets, what they were made of, their history, who owned them, the comps for the prices around them. We understood that location itself has value. I think it's something we say all the time, location, location, location. But we were really ill-equipped to express or dig into what about different locations made more sense for different projects. We were not able to understand the characteristics or explain them of location. And what that meant was the only people who were able to understand location or a location were people who had firsthand knowledge of it. And this was incredibly limiting when we looked at the kinds of decisions we all make that impact the built world. It limited our ability to see what should go where. It limited our ability to understand how to meet the demands of the market. It limited our ability to understand how we could optimize our projects that we're building beyond the physical asset that we're placing there. And we all know as we're building things or looking at projects, there are so many elements beyond the physical internal build. There's the materials we use, there's the environmental impact, there's the amenities that we place and integrate with the things we build, there's the integration with the community. And at Local Logic, we set out on a way to figure out how to understand location and its value and its risks so that all stakeholders in the real estate journey could build things better that suits the needs of the people who use them. What we've done is built a suite of location intelligence tools. The aim of them is to uncover hidden truths, risks, and opportunities. It is heavily focused on the location itself. So what is there, the history of that location? We talk about the quality of the location, zoning, the real estate market, general demographics, and we bring that all into one place so that stakeholders can access that information as they are making their own decisions. Location has a huge impact on any project's risks or success. In fact, location is the biggest risk for a project that we really can't control. We can't optimize the location once we've selected it very well. And so at Local Logic, we believe that having a better understanding of location, the possibilities and options you have, allows you to optimize as you're conceiving a project. We use data and artificial intelligence to extract a deep understanding of current location characteristics, the value of a location as it is today. And then we use machine learning to predict how neighborhoods and markets will change in the future. Here's an example of someone using our platform. Let's say they care about finding a site that is quiet, that has certain demographic characteristics, and has certain uses. You would select your use in a large geographic area, and it will slowly bring you to places that meet your needs, showcasing them. You can look into them and discover things about location at a lot level or a lat long level. You're able to call up zoning information if that matters to you. And you're also able to custom filter by demographic or other location elements that matter. Here we're looking at something that's relatively quiet, where people have a household income in a certain range. It also, in this, we're looking at something that has close proximity to rapid transit stations because that matters for this project. What this allows is, as you are going to figure out where to build or what to build, you're able to use this intelligence to really see, is this going to deliver the highest return on my investment? And is this going to meet the needs and the goals of the project that I've set out? We work with a number of interesting partners, investors, and clients who are all committed to the idea that if we understand cities better, we can change them for the better. And we've worked with large-scale developers, residential real estate platforms. We've worked with stakeholders throughout the journey of real estate, all the way from municipal governments who are planning and designing and setting codes, to developers conceiving of or optimizing projects, portfolio owners who are optimizing their asset mix within their portfolio, and real estate portals who are helping home buyers find the best location for them. Our innovation journey really started with a very simple premise that you cannot optimize what you can't measure. And the problem that we saw was that you couldn't measure location. You could feel like something was a good location. You could explain why you felt that way in kind of basic and obvious things. This is too close to a highway. This isn't close enough to a highway. But you couldn't really understand it in a way that's comparable with other sites or with other locations. And we set about measuring location at the lat-long level with precision across Canada and the United States. The first thing we did was say, what are the things that matter that we can begin to understand and uncover and quantify? And we started by saying, what are the elements that give us an understanding of the experience one would have in a location that allows us to know if we're matching a location to its use properly? We built 17 scores where we essentially evaluate any lat long on a scale of 0 to 10 for how transportation friendly they are. So how walkable, how car friendly, how transit friendly or bike friendly they are. How close they are to shops and services that might care to users. So what are the points of interest close to them and how close are they? How varied are they? So we have grocery store scores, restaurants, daycares, elementary schools, high schools, coffee shops, and retail. And then the part of this that I think feels so ephemeral, but is incredibly important, is trying to quantify easily, objectively, comparably, the character of a location. Is it a spot for vibrant nightlife? Is it historic? What's the greenery score, the quiet score, the vibrancy score, its park score? These are things that matter, whether it be a large tech company trying to build a new office, a multifamily residential company trying to look at their next mega development, a city trying to figure out what they should be including or calling for proposals for and what's missing, a transit agency looking at where to place stations. There's so many ways that we need this information to better match the things we build to the people who will be using them. And this was our first step to doing it. What we did is we built these scores and we used hundreds of data points for each one of the scores. We actually, at this point, have a database of over 30 billion data points that are powering this. And it's allowed us to create these scores for every lat long, so every property in Canada and the United States. We have full coverage. And when we started very early on, we started in Montreal, which is where we are based. We built these scores for the city of Montreal, and it took a year. It took a year of validation, research, some failure, and we got there. And then we started adding cities one by one. We actually said that every time we'd add a new city, we'd put a map of the city up on the wall behind us. And then very quickly, we realized that we're data experts, and there's certainly a more efficient way to do this. And we leveraged kind of our network understanding of cities and our machine learning expertise, and we added 3,000 municipal areas all at once. So there's only 30 cities on the wall behind me, but we do have full coverage for Canada and the United States. Why are we obsessed with location anyway? Like, why does it really matter? Well, when we look at understanding the value of the projects we're building, from a real estate perspective, that characteristics of the physical project often only make up a portion of its value. In fact, in our analysis, when predicting price of multifamily residential developments, the physical asset itself was only responsible for half of the value. The other half of the value came from access to amenities, the character of the area, transportation, and the types of education. These location elements that we're quantifying now. So without it, you're really only making your decisions with half of the information. And that's what we've been doing forever. We've been saying we have half of this information, we have a gut feeling about the rest, and that's sufficient. Well, it doesn't have to be sufficient anymore. Now you can make decisions and understand demand, future demand with a full picture. At Local Logic, we think that this information is valuable across the spectrum of real estate development. You know, from people who are planning, people who are developing, people who are building, people who are modifying things, people who are using them in the day-to-day. And so to that end, we've figured out ways to disperse the insights that we create in a variety of methodologies that can be used by different people doing different projects. We're trying to optimize for the diverse use cases that happen in the real estate industry. So we have web tools that we started to build early on. And these are kind of plug and play, they integrate into websites. And it's actually what our first clients who are in the residential real estate space were using. And then we saw that there was an evolution in the industry. I think it was in many ways related to what we saw in the fintech industry, where we saw just the value that having more advanced analytics can bring. that we could optimize the ways that we were working, and we could optimize our returns. We could optimize our impact from a financial perspective, from a sustainable perspective, from an environmental and social perspective. And as that was being adopted in fintech, in real estate, we started to see an appetite and an interest in people integrating data themselves into their own models or their own workflows. So not only using it in standalone web tools, but saying, how can you bring this to me in the way I do my work now? How can we change that? And through that, we started to build and have released data APIs where companies or individuals can link with our data and integrate it into their own data sets, into their own analysis, into their own workflow. And finally, we saw even more recently a hunger for individuals, whether they are individuals working at companies, analysts, developers, planners, or long tail investors saying, I also need access to this, or I need access to this in a packaged and curated way that allows me to integrate with other data sets that are ubiquitous in the industry, zoning, for example. And so we built a platform that allows for the combination of all of those data sets that people can use to answer questions about what is there now and make predictions and simulations about what's going to happen in those spaces in the future. Some of the most interesting use cases that we've really seen repeat are developers looking for a site for a real estate project. You're an expert in building a certain type of real estate project. Retirement homes in urban areas for people 60 to 70. And you know from the success of your own portfolio, certain locations that have worked in the past. You're able to use our platform to see what is it about those locations that were successful. Was it the amenities around them, the availability of transportation, a specific combination that works well? And then you're able to find sites anywhere in the US and Canada that have the same or similar characteristics that allow you to know they will meet the same needs as the thing you built. Another thing we see often is you have a site that you need to figure out how to optimize what you build in it. There's so much that goes into this, from zoning and regulation to looking at what are the expectations of the community, how do you get through public consultation, and then how do you ensure that it's meeting the needs of whatever you're trying to accomplish. We have planning departments who are using it for optimizing municipal planning projects and also calls for proposals. We have users who are trying to understand the impact of a potential project or an actual project, and then the impact of changes to those projects, both for them and for the environment around them. It's an incredibly useful tool to provide analysis or proposals or even marketing materials for the projects that we see people working on. And one of our earliest use cases was that it helped home buyers find the right homes for them. Our earliest clients were real estate web portals like Zillow and Redfin and Remax and Realtor, and we integrated our tools directly into their websites. If any of you have been looking at homes to buy in the past few years, you've used LocalLogic's tools that have allowed you not only to search by things that are traditional in industry, like the price and square footage and bedrooms and material type, but also by things that probably matter to you, how close it is to schools that you care about, how quiet is it, how vibrant and quiet it is, which I feel is the holy grail of residential development, by the way. And these use cases, all of them, have been essential to our innovation journey. They've helped us improve our product over time. In fact, the use of our product, specifically by residential home searchers, is one of the core elements that continually powers and improves our insights. As all of those people, and some of you likely, were searching for homes on Zillow or Remax or wherever, we were understanding in an anonymized and aggregated way what the market cared about in what configurations related to which real estate assets, at which price points, where. So all of a sudden, we have a key insight into latent market demand. We understand what people want now and what they're probably going to want in the future. We actually are integrated into over 70% of residential real estate searches in Canada. And so we really understand what's happening in the market now. And we've been doing this long enough that we've amassed almost 10 years of historical data. And now we're mining that data to understand and uncover trends and hidden truths, risks, so that we are able to say and predict how cities, not only what they're like now, but how they're going to be in the future, which allows all of the decisions that we're making to not only align for the needs of today, but to proactively align for the needs of tomorrow that we're able to model. The innovation of an evolution of these products was very much based on the types of data and insights we were trying to collect and provide. We started very simply with descriptive data. Once again, you cannot optimize what you can't measure. And we were trying to figure out the best ways to quantify and describe location at a large scale in a way that's usable and comparable. So really looking at data that's describing what's there now and what has been there historically. And this is essential to providing the basic context we're all lacking on location for anything we're doing. From that, we started to look at how we can use this large amount of descriptive data and historic trends to create predictive insights. Insights that allow us to simulate things that we are curious about, that allow us to model the unknown, that allow us to predict the impact of the projects we are designing, or that allow us to predict the way a market is changing around something we're doing to see if it will continue to be valuable for us and for them. And the final step for us, the real holy grail here in this innovation journey, will be as we move more and more into prescriptive insights, which will allow us not only to tell you what's there now and what will happen if you do the things you think you should do, but what should you do to optimize the highest and best use for any piece of land, for any project that we're doing. How do we optimize it in the ways that get us the results we need? And it's through this flow of insights from descriptive, predictive, and to prescriptive that we believe will enable everyone in the industry to really think better and differently about the things we're building to optimize the cities that we are creating now and for the future. We're trying to answer these questions. What are the factors that determine the value of location? How can all stakeholders in the real estate ecosystem have their needs met? How will a market and a neighborhood change over time? What really should we be developing to build better cities? And for us, the key to answering those questions isn't answering them as local logic. It's providing the insights and tools that allow the industry as a whole to answer them. And that's what we're really excited about. And so when I'm talking to you about this innovation, really what I'm saying is at Local Logic, we're trying to help you do your work in a way where you are the innovators here, changing this industry. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Unfortunately, due to time, we can't really do any questions. Next up, Inovues with Inovues. And Inovues, IA window technology company focused on commercial building upgrades and energy efficiency retrofits. Welcome, Inovues.
Thank you, JP. Hello, everyone. So my name is Kassas. I'm the founder and CEO of Inovues. Thank you for joining the session. I'm excited to tell you about the story behind the insulating glass retrofit technology that we've developed and how it enables existing buildings to have the latest energy saving and smart window innovations without removing or replacing the existing facades or windows. First, to give you a quick overview of Inovues, the company was founded in 2017 and headquartered in Houston. We recently expanded to New York City. Our product has been installed on buildings in Boston, Seattle, and Los Angeles. And our early adopters include Fortune 500 companies, large commercial real estate groups, and an alliance of over 140 energy utilities. We're also backed by great strategic investors like Saint-Gobain, one of the world's leading building products and materials company. Inovues was featured recently by Bill Gates Breakthrough Energy in their 2021 Climate Action Playbook. And we've won also a number of US and international startup competitions. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about my journey with Inovues and how it all started. So since my early days in architecture school in Damascus University in Syria, I've been always interested in creating sustainable and interactive architecture by designing dynamic building envelope systems. One of my first serious attempts was actually during my bachelor's degree project in 2010, which was awarded in the International Graduate Architecture Annual Competition in 2011. Back then, I tried to develop a smart double skin facade retrofit system inspired by the shutter mechanism in cameras. The system was able of transforming into 108 different configurations to control light, ventilation, and heat transfer effectively. Now, the technical challenges that I faced while trying to develop a prototype of this window system made me interested in learning how advanced building envelope systems are developed and produced. And that led me to pursue a multidisciplinary career in architecture, facade engineering, and fabrication, where I worked on high-profile projects in different parts of the world, like this 2 million passenger international airport in Oman, and these high-rise buildings in Dubai, China, and New York City. So this multidisciplinary experience was later on the reason I was able to develop Inovues technology. Now, fast forward to 2015, I was once doing a brainstorming session trying to come up with ideas that could have a big impact globally and help make the world a better place. And while I was, looking out the windows, I thought, what if there was a way to transform these windows into smart and energy efficient systems without having to remove or replace anything at all? So I started doing some research, and that was when I learned about the massive energy efficiency problem of the majority of the existing building stock. Now, as an architect and a facade engineer, I learned early on how buildings could be really energy hogs if they have inefficient envelopes. But when I saw this thermal image of New York City for the first time, I realized that the focus should not only be on new construction, which represent just about 2% of all buildings. Big challenge is, how can we upgrade the 98% of the building stock that will still be here in 2050? And as you may know, most existing buildings today, which represent the largest end user of energy, were built more than 20 years ago with thermally inefficient windows. In the US, for example, the DOE estimates that 40% of all existing buildings still have single pane windows, and half the remaining 60% have the early version of double pane windows that lack significantly in performance compared to the latest technologies and building energy code requirements. Now, the owners of those properties are not only losing hundreds of thousands of dollars each year due to energy loss, they could save up to 40% by upgrading the windows according to the DOE, but they're also experiencing a direct impact on every single aspect that influences their bottom line because of those poor performing windows. And to give you an idea of the size of this problem and the potential impact, so if we upgrade the 7 billion square feet of inefficient windows in commercial buildings in the US only, and achieve about 20% improvement in energy efficiency on average, we can reduce the total energy consumption by about 700 trillion BTUs, providing $24 billion in savings annually. And we can lower CO2 emissions by 147 million tons per year, which is like removing about 32 million cars off the streets. And that's why many cities that have committed to 80% emissions reduction targets by 2050 or earlier are now targeting the windows among the other building components through energy efficiency regulations. And utilities are offering significant incentives to encourage building owners to retrofit their windows. New York City, for example, said that all single pane windows will need to be upgraded. And utilities like Con Edison, Eversource, and the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance are now offering prescriptive and performance-based incentives for window retrofits in particular. And Inovues is part of these programs. But really the crux of the problem in terms of upgrading windows is that replacement or traditional window replacement projects is almost always not a feasible option for building owners as an energy efficiency retrofit because of the extremely high costs, the disruption that happens to the operations and the occupants, and the payback period is dramatically long, unrealistic from a financial perspective. So to address those three issues, we've developed a window upgrade solution that offers the same benefits of full window replacement, but at a fraction of the cost and time, and without disrupting the operations or occupants of the building, providing building owners up to 10 times faster payback period and up to 400% return on investment over the entire product lifespan. Now, we were able to significantly reduce the cost like that by inventing a system that, one, uses the existing windows as part of the solution instead of throwing them away, so requiring 70% fewer materials than a new window, and also eliminating the costs of demolition and disposal of the existing windows. Two, it's prefabricated offsite for quick and easy installation, which cuts installation costs by up to 80%. And three, it's an overglazed system that does not require removing, replacing, drilling, or altering anything at all to be installed. So no disruption to building operations, which means no loss of rent or income or productivity. Now, here are some photos to show you how the retrofit is easy and non-invasive or non-disruptive. So once the product is installed, it creates a hermetically sealed, desiccated air gap between the original glass and the new glass, which performs like a thermal cavity. Here's also, you can see the first step, the second step, and then, the final result, which look pretty similar to the one near it. Here's also a comparison between before and after to show you the difference. So in a few words, our insulating glass retrofits transform single and double glazed windows into high-performing double or triple glazed systems, providing up to 10 times higher thermal insulation. Here's also a real-time comparison using a thermal camera where you can see a 10-degree difference in the surface temperature of the glass between the original single pane window here on the bottom left and the other one on the top right that now has nearly triple the insulating value using our entry-level performance option. So the novelty in our insulating glass retrofit technology is that it made it technically possible in a cost-effective way to transform a window pane in place from the exterior or interior of the building into a multi-pane insulating glass unit, which is typically a product made in a fabrication facility. Now, our product might look simple on the outside, but once you zoom in on a cross-section, you start to see the level of engineering that goes into the design of this novel system, where every one of these components and materials in this tiny space is playing a major role in one or more aspects of the window performance, like air infiltration, water penetration, condensation resistance, dynamic wind load resistance, heat transfer, and more, which are all critical, especially in commercial buildings. And all of that has been, validated independently by the leading testing facility here in the US per the ASTM and other industry standards for new window systems in high-rise buildings. And in terms of installation, in the case of an exterior retrofit for a high-rise building, the split structure of our system and the lightweight nature of the prefabricated panels enable them to be installed in many cases using the existing window cleaning swing stage or building maintenance units without requiring additional scaffolds or custom installation platforms. So our non-intrusive installation method results in no disruption to the continued operations of the building, no damage to the building envelope, and no construction-related waste that needs to be shipped to landfills, which in turn makes our retrofit solution more cost-effective and environmentally friendly. Here are also some photos to show you the limited visual impact of the retrofit because of the low profile and frameless look of the panels. Below is before, top is after for the first floor. So you can see, we were able to maintain the appearance and color and look of the glass, but building owners can choose from, many glass options that can be used to preserve or enhance the building appearance as desired. And it's worth noting that our retrofit system is glass agnostic, so it offers a platform that provides the means needed for the rapid adoption or the adoption of advanced glass and smart windows in existing buildings, like dynamic glazing, transparent PV, and vacuum insulated glass. Here's also a quick example to show you where we used smart dynamic glass here on these four that changes automatically based on weather conditions, temperature, to control the amount of solar heat gain through the windows, and in turn save more on energy consumption and improve thermal comfort. So, overall, our insulating glass retrofits work with most window and curtain wall systems. They offer many energy and non-energy benefits, and we believe that it help existing buildings improve their competitiveness in the existing building market or in the commercial real estate market. And there's been a number of studies showing how energy efficient buildings have higher rents, higher occupancy rates, and higher sales prices. And lastly, I'd like to say that sustainability for us is not just a web page on our website. It's really in the core of our technology and business, starting with a preservation approach that uses the existing windows as part of the solution. We have an eco-friendly product that uses 70% fewer materials than a new window replacement. And even the smart options uses 100% clean renewable energy. We have a low impact installation with no disruption, destruction, or construction related waste. As a company, we've adopted a capital and resource efficient business model that relies on the facilities and equipment and resources of local partners instead of building from scratch, which in turn allowed us as a startup to commercialize our technology faster without having to raise millions of dollars in funding to really be able to deliver a low carbon solution that provides high economic, environmental, and social value. That's all. I hope this presentation was, helpful in kind of understanding the impact of Windows and how we're tackling this problem.
All right, thanks, Anas. Anas, are there specific building types that you're seeing more traction with, like both building use or size or geography? Is there any pattern emerging where you're seeing more demand for your product?
Mostly office buildings in cities that have, either energy efficiency regulations or offering incentives, and at the same time, they have high energy costs. Also, mostly in colder climates like the Northeast, Northwest, or Pacific Northwest, like Seattle. Canada also, we've been getting some traction there. But at the same time, it's all over the world. So we've recently got opportunities in Singapore, Dubai, Australia. They're reaching out to us. But for residential, this is not a good type for houses. There are other solutions that could be more cost effective for residential windows. So we're trying to focus on commercial buildings now.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you, Anas. I think that's our last presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And special thanks to Manav Mahindru on my team, who on our side has been heavily engaged with the team, with Margie and the team, to coordinate all this and make it happen. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Stuart.
So thank you, KP. And so, as I was thinking about the questions, I certainly, as an owner, but representing many owners, I would hope there will be a lot of questions. I think these, I think we just need a different way to actually be able to ask those questions. For example, on the ability to really make a difference to our planet in terms of the energy use. And one thing is economics, but it's just really the social value and to the how it affects our futures. So these innovations and these industries that you're creating are really fantastic. And I know many people that I think should have lots of questions. And so I hope we have a chance to interact at a different time. But I wanted to just really, I think really just really three comments. And one is, so, the things we've learned over the last couple of days certainly is that the future of innovation is with the startups. And so thank you. These are huge commitments and huge opportunities and huge ideas. But it takes that kind of energy, which I think someone said, I think it was UKP that said, so the energy comes from these questions. And I hope we see that. But these four startups are fantastic in terms of the opportunity and how they're going to influence our industry, but as well as importantly, how it's going to change our world. So there isn't time to go back into detail for each of them, but I just really wanted to really thank Tommy, Reginald, certainly Amanda and Kassas for leading these startups and these industries to move us forward. And that's one, and two, for taking the time to show those ideas to us here at the CIDCI and to our followers. So with that, I just want to say thank you very, very much. These are fantastic. And it's really just really encouraging to see what really is and what really can happen. So thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Margie for a final closeout.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the final day of CIDCI's Fall Forum. We'll be talking with owners about their view of innovation and how it might have changed over the last year and what we can expect going forward. So be sure to join us at 8 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Be sure to pre-register at CIDCI.org. Thanks again to Katie Olson for keeping us all on track, and to our wonderful panel. Thank you, KP and Manav, for all of your help and support in making this all happen. Thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow.